Well, now that we have the design of the axle hounds put together from the remnants of the old pieces, where they pass through the axle cap, they are 1 7/8 thick, and they are that thickness all the way up to the front. But from the axle cap back to the sway bar, they taper from 1 7/8 down to 1 5/8. So I need to get these cut out. So ideally, I would like these to be a mirror image of each other. So I'm going to start out making this surface here straight, and then see if I can't get these to where they match pretty close. Well, on a flat plane, we're pretty close. Just gonna clamp these together, and it's just time to try to match them up. Well, if my calculations are right, I wanted a tongue that is 3" to 3½. So I made a blank that will kind of mock that up. And from my patterns, I know where my holes need to be for the stabilizer bar. So I've got that marked, and I've also got it marked here where it's going to be bolted through the axle cap. I've got these on both sides. Well, this is the old stabilizer that came off of it, but it's not salvageable. I did have one off of the old parts that I made 30 years ago, but it doesn't fit like this one does. This pattern, it's wider at the end of these hounds, and they were made for a wider hound than what this one is. So I'm not going to be able to use that one. And this one obviously is not usable, so I need to make a new one. And there's a couple different avenues that we could go with this. First thought is, well, this must be steam bent, and it's possible that it was. It's a little difficult to tell on this one, but I'd almost judge by the grain pattern through here that it was probably sawn out. Sawn out is much more stable than steam bent is. Steam bent material, as it absorbs or releases moisture, can move more than a piece that is sawn out. And I do have a piece of 3" material here that would work. That's what this stabilizer is 3 inches deep. So I could saw it out like so. Because again, when I look at the grain pattern on here, it doesn't seem to follow the curve as if it was steam bent, and it's kind of this way on both sides. As I look at the grain pattern here, I'd almost say this was sawn out as well. It doesn't seem to follow the curve of this stabilizer. So this is one option and probably how it was done in the beginning. Another option would be if I could use a piece of bent wood and incorporate that into it, then we wouldn't have the cross grain. The grain would follow the curve. This is a piece of bent fellow that's 2 inches thick, 3 inches wide. So is it possible that I could relax this to make it fit this curve? I'm kind of curious, and I'm going to give her a go to see if I can make it work. If not, I'll saw it out. And I'll probably be more correct doing it that way anyway. Most oftentimes when I bend this type of stuff, I do put dates on it. And you can see here I bent it on April 22nd of 2014. So this is 10 years old, and initially it was built on a 44-inch OD diameter. Can I relax it to make it fit? So what I'm counting on is the principle of steam bending is all compression, which you're familiar with now if you've watched for a while. I keep the outside length constant, and I make all the inside of this lumber compress. That's what bending is all about. So to relax something like this, I need to relax that inside fiber. And I'm not going to put it back in the steamer. That would maybe be the ideal. I don't want to go through that process. I'm going to see if I can just heat this up, get enough heat in there so that the 12-14% moisture, I haven't actually put a meter on this, but the moisture in there would be enough to cause that grain to relax. This is kind of an experiment, I don't know. So you've seen me do this both on my stove, and you've seen me do it with my cutting torch. I'm going to try it on this stove, and I'm going to put a couple pieces on here so that I'm not setting right on the stove, because most likely it would probably scorch. I'm going to use these just to keep it up off of the stove a little bit. You have seen me do this to take twists out of lumber before. I'm going to see if I can get this hot enough to where I can't handle it, and see if I can relax that. So I'm going to do this kind of as a rotisserie. Because I want this heat to come up through the whole piece of lumber here. So it's got to come up from both sides. So there's probably some of you that's going to ask, well, how long will it take? Well, let's see, we're almost 1:45. You see, I'm starting to get some scorch marks even from this strap that I put on there. This stove is pretty hot. You can see it's getting dark here just from the heat, and it's not even touching the stove. So we've been 10, 12 minutes, not quite 15 minutes. And I have turned this a couple times. I'm going to put some clamps on it, see if I can get that to relax a little bit. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Some smoke coming off of my board here. It's hot. Anywhere is even close. Well, we're not too far off. Still needs to come a bit more, but we've gained a lot. Standing in front of this stove is pretty hot too. Notice this side, my brace is a little off of center, so I'm going to release it all and bring this brace up. It's kind of pulling it a little bit in a twist. I'm going to back these off, bring that up, and then retighten that back up again. I'll do just a little more on this section. This side's pretty good right till about here. I think we're pretty workable right there. So that was about 10 minutes worth of squeezing. So I'm just going to take this off, and it's going to cool if I can get it off, because it's hot. This clamp is plumb loose. It's given quite a bit. And I'll just let that cool. Well, we're just a little over an hour from where we started, and maybe 45, 50 minutes from when we finished doing our relaxing. And we're going to see just what we have here. So this is what we started with. This is the other half that I cut off. And that's the piece that we relaxed. You can see what a drastic change that was. So that actually is going to work just about right. So you can see the drastic change, and we weren't bending wood, we're actually just relaxing wood. We're using the moisture that's already there, putting the heat back in, which relaxes the lignin in those wood fibers and lets us do what we just did in about an hour's worth of time. I guess it actually only took us, what, maybe 15, 20 minutes of actual bending. The other 45 minutes was just letting it cool off. So the old stabilizer is 1.5 inches thick, and I'm starting with 2-inch. I did run this surface through the jointer, so I'm square there. What I need to do is make sure that I have the body here square with the surface, and you can see that I'm not. Not totally unexpected that I would have a little twist, but that's the advantage of having extra thick wood here. I can position that and trim this down, square it all up, and finish out with my 1.5 inches through here. So I'm going to start with this outside edge, I think, and square it up. My big belt sander, I've got a table that's square here. So I'm just going to use that with my square face and square that up with my sander. My top iron plate should give me the exact curve that I want. Really close to right here. And this should be the inside. These irons are going to tell us where the joints are going to be. So this is where the joints will be, and then it is contoured. Let's see, we are 2 1/4 at the center. Looks like we're about 1 3/4, oh maybe 2 out on the end. Probably closer to 2. Well, when this gets tapered down on both sides, we are 1 1/8, 3/16, 1 3/16 in there somewhere. It'll be tapered down about like so. And this will feather out up into here. And this is a long sweeping curve. Something like so, and similar on the ends. Well, these joints for the back of the hounds are kind of cut at an angle, so I guess the best way to do that's by hand. that'll work. That's about where she should sit over the holes. So here I can take and measure down exactly off of the wood as it will be and figure out where my mortises and that axle cap need to be. But this is generally pretty common in coach work, where you end up with curves and angles and tapers and mortises and tenons. That's why I find coach building so interesting, and playing with wood and just seeing what it will do. Wood is pretty amazing stuff. Anyway, appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.